For the vast majority of people, it makes much more financial sense to buy your own home rather than rent. Instead of lining your landlord's pockets, you're investing in your own home. The good news for first-time buyers is that house prices have finally started to fall. The bad news, though, is that credit crunch has seen off the last of the 100% mortgages, and lenders are tightening up their criteria, meaning it's getting even harder to take that first step on the property ladder. While things are certainly looking pretty tricky for first-time buyers, it doesn't mean you should put your dream on hold. You just need to be that little bit more creative. At the moment, the average price of a typical first-time buyer flat is about £170,000. But in London, you can easily expect that figure to top £200,000. With most lenders now wanting a typical deposit of 10%, that means saving £17,000, and that's no mean feat. But if a deposit of this size is proving elusive, there are still plenty of things you can try. One option is to team up with a friend or sibling and buy together. It might not be quite the dream that you imagined, but it's an easy way to double your deposit and your borrowing power. The key, of course, is that you get on, and you must seek legal advice to ensure both your interests in the property are protected. You also need to agree an exit route in case things don't work out or one of you decides to move on. If you really want to buy on your own, there are still a number of cards you can play. One is shared ownership, where you team up with the local housing authority and buy a portion of your home and pay rent on the remainder. Schemes like this are often prioritised for key workers like nurses and teachers, but even if you don't fall into this camp, it's worth exploring what's available in your area. Now, nobody likes going cap in hand to their parents, but if you're really struggling to raise a deposit, it's well worth thinking about it. Bumping up your deposit not only helps you out, but it can also be a good investment for your mum and dad. Or you can speak to them about acting as a guarantor on your mortgage to help you raise the finance you need. Now, while all this sounds like a bit of a struggle, it pays to remember that first-time buyers are the driving force in the housing market, and so you could be carrying much more power than you think. I'm talking to Phil Tennant, Regional Sales Director from Hamptons International. So Phil, tell us why first-time buyers are so important in the housing market at the moment.
They're important because they prop up a whole chain. Without the first-time buyer at the bottom of the chain, nobody can move.
So when it comes to making an offer, does it mean that first-time buyers can be a little bit cheeky?
Absolutely. A lot depends on the vendor and why they're selling. It's probably not so useful to suggest they can all offer at 10% below the asking price. It depends often how that particular vendor arrived at an asking price. So as tips to first-time buyers, I would say find out from the agent why the vendor is moving. If you can, what other valuations they had from other estate agents, how long they've been on the market, have they had any other offers? And use that, you should be able to build a pretty clear picture.
So, for example, if you see a property that may be perhaps 10% more than you're willing to pay, is it worth seeing the estate agent about the property?
Definitely. Go and have a look. Wouldn't put them off at all.
From your point of view with first-time buyers, I mean, what would you like to see as an estate agent? How prepared should they be when they come to see you?
It's a good question. Post-credit crunch, the concept of having a mortgage arranged in principle doesn't seem to mean half as much as it used to. The quality of the lender means an awful lot to your average vendor.
So go for the big names?
Go for the big names. They seem to be, anecdotally, the ones who aren't suddenly withdrawing the mortgage offer at the last minute. Someone with a larger deposit will be more attractive than someone with a smaller deposit. The mortgage is more likely to go through in the end, it would appear at the moment.
And any other tips for them?
Don't be afraid. It's very easy to storm in when everybody else is wanting to buy. That's probably the worst time to do it. If you're comfortable with the price, if it's less than you were paying to rent and you're not stretching yourself too much, go for it.
Don't forget, you'll need money for things like furniture, curtains, kitchen equipment and stamp duty. There's no way that buying your first home isn't going to stretch your finances. But so long as you don't overdo it, that's fine.